And you're welcome back. Let's cross over now to New York because world leaders are being urged to recommit to the acceleration of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which will recede in the next 7 years. The Agenda 2030 of leaving no one behind and tackling world poverty veered, of course, owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, it is emerging now at the 78th General Assembly that the world would have to research and to move towards attaining the Sustainable Development Goals. Earlier today, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, urged world leaders to join efforts at tackling world poverty and to ensuring that the SDGs are accelerated.
You made a solemn promise, a promise to build a world of health, progress and opportunity for all. A promise to leave no one behind, and a promise to pay for it. This was not a promise made to one another as diplomats from the comfort of this chamber. It was always a promise to people. People crushed under the grinding wheels of poverty. People starving in a world of plenty. Children denied a seat in a classroom, families fleeing conflict, seeking a better life, parents watching helplessly as their children die of preventable disease, people losing hope because they can't find a job or a safety net when they need it, entire communities literally on devastation's doorstep because of changing climate. So the SDGs aren't just a list of goals. They carry the hopes, dreams, rights and expectations of people everywhere. And they provide the surest path to living up to our obligations under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, now in its 75th year.
Well, Wani Kenny is a journalist working in South Sudan. He's at this year's United Nations General Assembly, joining us from New York now. Thank you for spending some time with us here on the Joy News channel in Ghana. The UN Secretary General saying there that the world actually risks leaving the SDGs behind. What for you is informing this statement, and listening to the debate so far, why is it so necessary that the world refocuses on the SDGs? Wani, we seem to be having a challenge hearing you. If you could just unmute for me there so we can hear the points you're making here on the Joy News channel. The question about, the SDGs and why the UN Secretary General is so passionate about, the world coming together and to, push forward when it comes to attaining the SDGs. Why do you feel, he's so passionate about the SDGs this time around?
Thank you. In a world marked by historic events, the war in Ukraine, the conflict in Sudan, the effect of climate change all around the world are a cause of concern. And instead of achieving the goals, it's like the SDGs have hit a reverse gear, and hence the statement from the UN Secretary General.
And lots of statements are being made so far. What else has been dominating, the discussions in New York where you are?
Well, issues to do with climate change is topping the discussions, especially after the disasters we see around the world, the recent one in Morocco and many other countries. It's top of the agenda, but also not forgetting the conflicts that are ongoing currently in most of these countries, in many of these countries around the world, and they are kind of a cause of concern because without settling all these, it is difficult to attain the Sustainable Development Goals.
And in fact, feeding that into the UN SDGs, we'll be talking about your story shortly and what's happening in South Sudan. But is there any indication at all that we're just 7 years away from the UN SDGs attaining it? Does it look like these world leaders would want to shift the timelines again, revise the Agenda 2030, and perhaps look at another time in the future? What indications are you getting looking at the debates at the General Assembly?
Looking at the debate, it seems that is a possibility because the 50% of the Sustainable Development Goals have not even been achieved. Now, how else will you make the world a better place, it means either timelines have to shift or new policies have to be put in place in order to tackle some of these issues. And of course, you see the rise in the conflicts today, and of course, the effects of climate change is really topping the agenda. And this cannot be achieved overnight. It has to, some timelines really have to shift. And according to the discussions that are going on currently, it means something at least would happen in terms of the change in the timeline.
And let's talk about South Sudan, where you find yourself. You find yourself closer to Sudan, which is also having its own unique challenges in terms of conflict, and we all know what the story is. As a journalist and monitoring the discussions going on, what would you say is that surest bet to tackling all of these emerging conflicts and looking at that into the political situation across many countries on the African continent? Why is it so important that we take the SDGs seriously and to tackle the issues confronting our continent?
The SDGs are key to kind of stabilizing countries, and of course, when one is missing, it means it will lead to escalating conflicts in some of these countries. And of course, we've seen that with the Sudan, the rise in economic situation. I mean, the economic situation is not really good, and all these are contributing factors to the conflicts that we're seeing. So the SDGs are really key because when they are attained, the stability of the countries are all dependent on it. So looking at what is happening in Sudan, and of course it destabilizes the entire region. Whenever there is a pain, like like the human body, whenever there's a pain in one of the areas, it means the whole body experiences it. So working towards achieving the sustainable goals will really go a long way in stabilizing the entire region, not just Sudan or South Sudan.
The high-level week is just beginning in New York. Do we know some of the activities we should be expecting in the coming days?
Oh yes, lots of activities are ongoing. The summit on climate action is ongoing, and of course, we're still going to listen to the debate from the various heads of states, and most of the heads of states are also arriving. Just some few minutes ago, we've seen the Nigerian president also arriving, and of course, the South Sudanese president is almost. We are waiting for him in a few minutes. He will be also inside. So a lot of discussions will be ongoing, and of course, we have countries that are in conflict with each other. They also have events where they could sit down for some discussions, private discussions, at least to try and iron out some of the issues.
And we'll definitely be watching the space, and we'll keep connecting with you for more updates from New York. Wani Isaac Kenyi, who is with the Insider from South Sudan, but joining us from New York. I'm grateful for your time.